Come along with me while I decide what book to add to my September TBR. Hello book friends, I'm Jen and welcome to my reading life and welcome to my chaise lounge. I'm sitting here today because I am going to do a new type of video today that I have never done before, though lots of other booktubers do this type of video, and I'm hoping maybe I can make it a semi-regular type of video that I put out for you all to enjoy. And that is to try a chapter of some books and see which of those books I feel like maybe I want to read this month or in the coming months, or maybe this is a book I need to get rid of or set aside for some time. We shall see. This month, I'm actually just looking to find a book to add to my September TBR because in addition to the pile of possibilities that I shared with you all in my September TBR video, I had another stack of books that I was considering reading for the month that I pulled off my shelf because they were just calling to me. And so I set some of those aside and I thought, what better way to decide which of them I would like to read than to try a chapter, see if that draws me in, and see if I want to continue reading it right now. And then in addition to that, I actually pulled two other books off of my shelves that I had a lot of comments about from my bookshelf tour videos. And so I added those to the pile, and the pile is sitting right here next to me. I actually have 6 books today that I'm going to try a chapter and then decide one, maybe 2 possibly to add to this month's TBR. And I think I actually have 3 fiction and 3 nonfiction, which is kind of unusual for me. So I've never done this before. We're gonna see how this goes. I think what I might do is do them in pairs of 2. So I think I will read a fiction and a nonfiction and then a chapter from each of those. And then I will come back on here and talk about how I feel about those 2 books. And then I will move on to the next 2 and then the final 2. And then at the end, I will kind of rank all 6 of the books, see how I'm feeling about them, and see which 1 or 2 I want to add to my September TBR. Maybe there'll be a book I want to save for October, which is my birthday month. We shall see. But yes, we're just going to give this a try. But before we get started, let's go over the 6 books that I am going to be trying a chapter of today. Here they all are. Here's my big stack. And I think I have these kind of stacked in the order I'm going to read them today. The first book is Raising Demons by Shirley Jackson. This is a memoir of her life raising her children and with her family. And I read her first volume of this memoir, which is Among the Savages, and absolutely loved it. I have high hopes for this one. Let's see if the first chapter draws me in today. Then next up, I have a book by one of my favorite authors, and that is Smouldering by D.E. Stevenson. And I heard somebody just recently talking about this, and so I had to get my own copy of it because it was a D.E. Stevenson that I hadn't heard of yet. And I'm not really sure much about this, but we're going to dive into it. I think it takes place in Scotland, and we will see what I think of this one. And then next I have Dying in the Wool, which is the first Kate Shackleton mystery by Frances Brody. And I had talked about this mystery series in my library tour video. I picked up what I thought was the first book in the series, but was not. This is the first book in the series. And my lovely friend Susan offered to send me her copy, which she was finished with, and she so sweetly did, and I shared this in a recent haul video. And I'm going to dive into this one because I do love to read mysteries in the fall. So let's see if maybe this one is calling to me today. And then next, this was on so many of your recommendations after my first book haul tour video, and that is The Adventures of Miss Barbara Pym by Paula Byrne. And this is obviously a biography of Barbara Pym, and I thought this would be perfect for Spinster September because Barbara Pym is well known for writing books that feature spinsters or have spinster characters in them, and I think this might be a lovely addition to my reading this month. So let's see how I get along with this one. And then next up, I have Vintage 1954 by Antoine Lorrain. As I've talked about before, I'm having a bit of a love affair with Antoine Lorrain's writing right now. The Red Notebook is a favorite book of mine from last year, and I have been wanting to read more by him. I read one of his other books this year, and I'm hoping to get to this one. And this is a bit of a time travel book where some people drink a bottle of wine and a 1954 Beaujolais, and it takes them back to 1950s Paris. And yes, so then they had to figure out how to get back to 2017. So very curious about this little time slip novel. And then lastly was the second book that everybody just raved about from my bookshelf tour video, and that is Dewey. How can you not love this cat? I mean, cat, library, check, check. I have a feeling I'm going to love this. Let's see if this is the one I'm going to get to this month. If not, I am definitely going to put Dewey on my October reading list because I need to get to Dewey very, very soon. I have had this book on my bookshelf, I don't even know how long, over a decade at least. The time has come. So those are the 6 books that I'm going to try a chapter from today, and then we will see what I think of each of them. So I'm going to get settled in here, and I'm going to start with the first 2 books. So here we go. I'm back. I have read the first chapters of the first 2 books. Well, I did not read the first full chapter of Raising Demons because it is something like 66 pages long. And that seemed a little excessive for today. So I read the first 15 pages of Raising Demons, which I felt gave me a good flavor for the story. And again, it had me chuckling already. Shirley Jackson is so funny in these memoirs. At the very beginning, the family is going to be moving, but it sort of is thrust upon them. The idea is set forth because Shirley Jackson feels like they're outgrowing their house, and then a rumor spreads throughout their town, and suddenly everyone thinks they're moving, and it kind of makes it happen. So that was very funny. And then another woman wants to come and rent the house that they're currently living in, and she and Shirley Jackson are not simpatico, and so that interaction was also very funny. This is definitely a contender. And then the second book that I read the first chapter of was Smouldering Fire, and in this we meet Ian McCaslin, and he owns an estate. I'm gonna butcher this name, I think. Ardfalek? Something like that. And he is going to be renting it out for 3 months because basically he needs the money, and he's not looking forward to doing this, and he knows, I think, the people in his village are not going to like the idea of him renting it out either. And clearly there is going to be something that occurs when the people come to rent the house. He's going to be staying at a small cottage on his estate while the house is being rented, and I think we're going to find out what happens. Very good. I mean, I love Dee Stevenson, and she brings the Scottish Highlands just right to life in this first chapter. But I am wondering, it does feel like maybe it's a little bit too similar of a story to some of the other books I have selected to read in September. So this might not be a good month to dip into this one. I may hold off on this. So Not that I didn't enjoy the first chapter, but I just feel like maybe it's a little bit too close to some of the other books I'm reading this month, and I don't want to get myself confused, as I am apt to do. Okay, now I'm going to read the first chapters of the next 2 books, and hopefully neither of the first chapters are another 60 some odd pages long. So we shall see. I finished up the first chapters of the next 2 books, and the first one that I read was Dying in the Wool by Frances Brodie. And in the first chapter, we meet Kate Shackleton. She is a widow. Her husband has gone missing and is presumed dead during World War I, and she is now living. She has a housekeeper, and in this first chapter, Kate receives a letter from an acquaintance of hers that she met when she was volunteering during the war, and this woman is about to be married, and her father has gone missing. He was not in the war, he was a mill owner, and she wants Kate's help. She's heard that Kate is good at solving mysteries. Kate's been acting as sort of an amateur detective, helping out friends and family members who need help finding things or finding things out. And so this woman has reached out to her, and I think it's safe to assume that Kate is going to take the case. So that is where we're at. I definitely was pulled in by this first chapter, so this is also another contender for this month. Though I think perhaps this next one might be the top one so far, and that is The Adventures of Miss Barbara Pym by Paula Byrne. I read, there's like a little short introduction and then the first chapter, which were both just a few pages long, but I'm already drawn into Barbara Pym's life and I want to learn more. And I love how this biography is set up. It's set into really short chapters, so there are lots and lots and lots of chapters. There's like pages and pages of the chapter headings, and I love a lot of them are like in which ... something happens. So many of the chapters are titled that way. That just speaks to me. I don't know. I love when a nonfiction book is written in a very narrative style and feels almost like fiction. I think so far this one's the front runner of the 4 that I've read. 2 more to go. So let me dive into those. Finished the final 2 books for my Try a Chapter. First up for this round was Vintage 1954 by Antoine Lorraine. As I mentioned, it is a bit of a time travel book, and some people in Paris get together and they share a bottle of 1954 Beaujolais wine and end up back in 1950s Paris. And they have to figure out how to get back to 2017. And I actually read the first 2 chapters of this because they were very, very short. Huey, apologies. Huey is rubbing on the tripod that my camera is on right now. Okay, buddy. No. Here, come up here. If you want to rub on something, come up here. Okay. Let's try that. And the first chapter is actually, you're reading like a transcript from 1954 of a man who claims to have seen like a UFO in the sky. And then he goes missing in like the 1970s. He drinks a bottle of wine from, where was it that it, Chateau Saint-Antoine, and is never seen again. Then we go to the next chapter, and there is a man, Bob, from Milwaukee, and he is taking his first trip to Paris. And yes, he's basically on the flight, and we're just seeing him on his way, and then I guess we're going to go from there. So an introduction to one of the characters at least, and I'm very intrigued. I love Antoine Lorraine's writing, so this definitely has me drawn in. And then lastly, I read Dewey, not to be confused with Huey, who still wants to rub on my tripod. Huey, stop. You goofball. I'm going to have to pet him while I talk, otherwise he's just going to keep rubbing his head on this. And read the first chapter of Dewey, just as lovely as everyone said it was and as I was expecting it to be. And I feel like this is going to be a really quick read. I mean, it took me just a few minutes to get through chapter 1, and in that, Dewey is discovered inside the library drop box, and he's a tiny little kitten, 8-week-old kitten, and he's very dirty and he's freezing, and it's winter in Iowa, and they clean him up and give him a little bath, and he's already making friends with the people who work at the library. So yes, I definitely am drawn into Dewey's story. Now I need to decide which of these 6. Huey, stop. No, stop. Okay. I'm going to have to hold him because otherwise he is going to keep on rubbing on my tripod. So now I have to decide which of these 6 I want to read right now and which I'm going to save. The first, I think I'm definitely going to hold off on Smouldering Fire by D.E. Stevenson, just because it does feel too similar to some other things that I'm reading. And, you know what? I might save Raising Demons for Nonfiction November, because it's nonfiction and I always want something that I know I'm going to enjoy, and I will definitely enjoy this, so that might be a good choice for that. So I'm going to set that one aside. You know what? I think I am going to lean towards either The Adventures of Miss Barbara Pym or Dewey. I don't think I have any other nonfiction on my TBR pile of possibilities for September. Do I? Oh, I have one. I do have one nonfiction, but that's it. All the rest of my books are fiction. I haven't read much nonfiction this year. I'm kind of feeling like I'm in the mood for that. So yes, I think I might just dive right into Dewey because I have a feeling it's going to be a quick read. And then I will start the Barbara Pym, which is quite chunky, though I think it will also be fairly quick. The chapters are really short, but even if I don't finish it in September, I can just carry it over into my birthday month. And this seems like a lovely book to continue reading in October. So I think that's my plan. Huey, what do you think? You think that's a good plan, buddy? So Dewey and The Adventures of Miss Barbara Pym are going to be the 2 books that I am going to add to my September TBR. Well, that was fun. And yes, I definitely think I will do more videos like this if you guys enjoyed this. I think it would be fun to maybe pull some books off of my shelves that have been on there for a really long time and I haven't been spurred to pick up, and to see, you know, if I try a chapter, is it a book that I think I want to read? Is it a book that maybe I could get rid of because it's just not something I'm interested in anymore? yes, I think this might be fun to do this every so often, and maybe cull some of my TBR. Someone asked me after my bookshelf tour videos if having so many books on my TBR stresses me out. And most of the time the answer to that is no. And I read something, and I forget who was quoted as saying this, but it was basically, you can look at your TBR in two ways. You can look at it as a to-do list, or you can look at it as a library. And I look at it as a library, not a to-do list. And I love to have lots of wonderful books around me. I love to have lots of choices. And so that doesn't stress me out in that way. I like to be able to go to my own personal library and pick what I want to read. That's just how I like to do it. I'd love to know how you prefer it. Are you a TBR to-do list person, or are you a TBR library person? I would love to hear that from you in the comments. And have you read any of these 6 books that I tried a chapter from today? Any of them sound interesting to you? Huey is just going to get into all the things today. He's going to try to chew on the cord for my blinds, and I'm going to have to stop that in just a moment so he does not get tangled up. But thank you so much for watching this video, for liking, subscribing, and especially for commenting. I do love chatting with all of you guys on my videos about all the bookish things. And I'll be back with another video very soon. Bye. Say bye, Huey.